Tonight, NBC5 investigates claims from President Trump and his top law enforcement officials that immigration arrests are cleansing the streets of Chicago of dangerous criminals who are in the U.S. illegally.
Our investigative reporter Chuck Goudie has been looking into whether that is true. Chuck?
Stephen, Allison, for months, arrests of undocumented immigrants in Chicago and across the U.S. have been heralded by the administration as removing the worst of the worst. Bold statements from the president on down have focused on violent offenders put in handcuffs. But hidden behind hyped-up statements, the NBC Chicago investigative team has found that 4 of every 5 immigrants arrested are not the worst of the worst. They are not even criminals. And we learned this from the government's own database. When the tear gas clears, body slam bruises fade, and undocumented immigrants are hauled away, the real story of who the government actually has arrested is in this honeycomb of numbers, broken down by how much of a threat arrestees are and whether they were ever convicted of any crime. From the start of the White House effort to remove undocumented immigrants, the messaging has been direct.
We have focused overwhelmingly day after day after day on bringing in the worst of the worst and getting them off of our streets. Those are the murderers, the rapists, the pedophiles.
The government has plastered its motto on crisp web pages, reinforcing they're after the worst of the worst. And they've taken to posting pictures and backgrounds of criminal fugitives who are thought to be in the United States illegally. But according to its own data, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the agency known as ICE, is falling far short of maximizing this extensive law enforcement effort that has resulted in tens of thousands of arrests in Chicago and across the country. The past year of ICE data, analyzed by NBC5 Investigates, shows that on average nationally, 84% of detainees have no criminal convictions, a figure that also reflects what we have found in Chicago since Operation Midway Blitz began September 9th.
I would even say probably over 90-some% have no past criminal convictions.
It kind of shoots the mission in the foot, doesn't it?
The irony here is over the last 10 months, we've seen an administration focused on the sort of theatrical arrests. There hasn't been a focus on or a prioritization or even putting resources against removing those that have final orders of removal and that those that are national security or public safety threats.
Less than 7% of those arrested the past year are considered serious threats by ICE, and numerous detainees at first labeled as worst of the worst apparently aren't so, including these 3 who were called out in ICE press releases as worst of the worst. Our investigation finding no criminal convictions here.
ICE has a finite and a specific amount of detention beds or jails that they can put individuals in. Americans need to ask themselves if those should be used for those that have no criminal conviction and been working here for decades, and just for the sort of the theatrics of meeting these quotas of arrests and removal, or if those beds should be utilized for those that are convicted criminals, gang members, human drug traffickers.
ICE officials are not taking their foot off the gas here in Chicago. Arrests continue at a brisk pace, but barely 1 in 10 is considered a criminal threat. And tonight, Homeland Security and the Trump administration are not explaining why they promise one thing and achieve something different, why the mission is to detain and deport dangerous criminals, but in actuality, there continue to be a minuscule percentage of criminal arrests by immigration teams. They really couldn't quarrel with the figures. They're their own.
Hopefully someone will ask those questions to Kristi Noem and those who are in charge of this operation.
She'll be here tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Chuck, thank you much.